be real. We're going to make it real.
It's real. But
Exactly.
So what I'm going to have all of us introduce ourselves, but I'm going to give the topic of the panel, it's international crowdfunding, what they're doing overseas. But the last panel, which I was on too, was more about equity crowdfunding. Now we're going to talk about products. Like, what does it take to launch a product through crowdfunding? What are the obstacles you run into? What are some success stories? We have some very successful entrepreneurs up here. And how does that affect your business? So why don't we all introduce myself first. My name is Steve Hoffman. I am co-founder of Founders Space. We are located here in San Francisco. We have an incubator and accelerator. We're started from all over the world, from 50 countries we have partners in, and we are heavily expanding now in China. We're opening up offices in Beijing and Shanghai and other cities shortly after that. So let's go down the row, and Brian, why don't you start?
Okay, so let me introduce myself first.
Yes, each of you introduce yourself.
Okay. Actually, our company is a startup. We just founded 1 year and 9 months. But in the last year, we announced the first smart and safe helmet in the world. And we go to the Indiegogo campaign and get the successful. And after we finish our campaign, we finish our A-round rising. Yeah, that's all. We are quite young startup.
Great.
Okay.
I'm Helen. I'm the CEO of TouchJet. We actually did 2 crowdfunding. One was in 2014 and the other one 2015, both on Indiegogo. I'd love to share the experience with you.
Yeah, thank you. Now, Luke?
My name is Luke Eisman. I direct hardware at Combinator. Depending who you ask, we're involved in any of the 3 contenders for top crowdfunding campaign. It's either Lily the Drone, which was on Tilt, the platform we funded, or Pebble, an alumni of ours, or Glowforge, co-founded by an alumni of ours. So we're deeply involved in large crowdfunding campaigns.
Thank you. Amanda?
I love seeing all these campaigners and all these success stories. I'm Amanda. I'm the Senior Director of Growth Innovation at Indiegogo. I've been with Indiegogo for about 4 years, focused on our hardware design and technology categories. So have worked with and know a lot of people in the ecosystem. I'm actually about to leave Indiegogo and start my own consulting business, also focused on crowdfunding, mainly advising platforms and startups. But we'll continue to evangelize Indiegogo as it's a huge part of why I love this industry so much.
So Amanda, you think you can make more money on your own with all your knowledge in consulting than at Indiegogo?
Am I blushing? No, it's not about that at all. I'm ready for a change. I've been at Indiegogo for 4 years. I've seen it from 13 people to what it is today. And recently I've started focusing on more of our new market development, so leading our China efforts, our equity crowdfunding efforts. And I'm just really excited to branch away from Perks-based. It's been a home for me for so long, but I'm excited to start kind of working on my own. I'm entering a very new phase of my life and my career. But of course, like I said, we'll continue to evangelize for Indiegogo.
Well, we want to tap your brain while we have you here. Get all your secrets about Indiegogo.
The information for the next hour is free, but then after that, of course.
Yeah. So we'll ask all our questions now while we have you for free.
Where are the people? They need to come.
So I noticed that 2 of our startups here, Liveball and TouchJet, you guys both chose Indiegogo over Kickstarter or other platforms. And since you're here, Amanda, I guess that's a good sign. Why did you choose Indiegogo?
Okay. Before we went to the Indiegogo, first of all, we got the crowdfunding in China. JD, you should know the JD. JD got the biggest crowdfunding platform now. And then we need to choose whatever the Indiegogo and Kickstarter. So I visited the Indiegogo headquarters in San Francisco last year's March, and I found the Indiegogo guys is pretty friendly and helpful.
And Kickstarter wasn't?
I didn't see that. That means I mean that's maybe depend on the West Coast and the East Coast. I think, and then I make the final decision. I need to go to the Indiegogo first. and good, very good result, and very good. We got about
How much did you raise?
260.
So you raised 260,000 on
Yeah.
Indiegogo,
Yeah.
and then how much on JD?
In JD is 1.1 million RMB.
Okay, RMB.
Yeah. So
So divide by 6. Yeah.
yeah, but for the Kickstarter, even we were success a little bit.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay,
because that-
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, Helen, tell us about
I
your
would
choice.
second what Brent said. Obviously, TouchJet is headquartered in San Francisco. It's much easier to work locally with the team. Amanda, Ben, Damon, lots of people know their names. So I think having the support and having the data, I think the dashboard is very important. I'm definitely a data person. And also there is a network of people like what Amanda is probably going to get into. You really can't just assume that you can go on crowdfunding and be successful. You need some professionals to hold your hand. Even I've been in marketing throughout my life. Crowdfunding was new.
Yeah.
So and having that network to help you with from PR to design to video, all of that, I think Kickstarter, we definitely considered it. And
Yeah.
I think they have a tremendous resources as well. I think it's really what the right fit and who you're working with.
Okay, great. Luke, you probably look at a lot of crowdfunding sites since you do hardware at Y Combinator, and hardware is the sweet spot for crowdfunding. Now tell us, what do you use? Which have you used, and what's been your experience?
I mean, we've seen companies use all three platforms. I think to echo what everyone's saying, it's really about what platform makes you as an entrepreneur company, like in your company, comfortable, like who you think you can work with to really get insights. Every company that launches at Y Combinator, first of all, if they haven't crowdfunded before getting to YC and they're consumer facing, they almost always do by the end of YC. We apply a lot of pressure there, and they'll all talk to all the platforms, regardless of how sure they are on who they'll use. They'll get insights because we work so closely on such large campaigns that, you know, if you're going to launch an Indiegogo, talk to Kickstarter and Tilt because they've run similar products in adjacent categories and they'll have insights about what works.
Yeah, great. So Amanda, tell us, what are the qualities you see that make for successful crowdfunding?
That's a great question. So, I mean, well, first, this panel represents the sweet spot in technology for Indiegogo, which is hardware. But beyond that, there's so many things that actually people can look to get out of their crowdfunding campaign. So one of the first questions that Ben probably asked each of you is, are you looking to drive sales or are you looking to drive market awareness? And the answer to those questions is very different, because if you're looking to drive sales, you want to focus on the number of conversions, and the dollars raised is a big deal, but if you have a price point of $50 versus $200, that's a very different size campaign. And then, you know, there's a series of other things. Do you want to test features about your product, or are you already in manufacturing, so you're just trying to like sell it? So I would say the best case scenario for any crowdfunding campaign is to know what hypotheses you're trying to test about your product going into the campaign, to be honest with yourself about what you can expect to get out of your campaign, and then try to maximize for those two spectrums, I guess.
Okay, great advice. Now let's hear from hands-on. You guys did your campaigns. I want to find out what worked and what didn't, and what were the key pieces of learning you had. So Helen, you want to start?
I will go first because we did it twice.
You did it twice, right? And you raised a lot of money both times. Let's talk about that. I know because I worked with your team early.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So we had the first product, which is a touchscreen projector, and it raised to today about 912,000. And it was, I wouldn't say it's an accident. I would say that the team was overly excited when it started to get traction. And I believe Indiegogo as a platform that is having that existing community that's very important. I think people need to understand just to reach the audience, that early adopter, that it gives you a huge kickstart, right? On the other hand, from the first crowdfunding, though, what we've learned well, I wasn't there. I was hired as a CEO later on because we had a very successful crowdfunding and we had a little bit hard time to deliver the products, right? So sometimes for advice to you is that you almost don't want to raise too much because there's a huge pressure for you to produce that, 5,000 units. And to Amanda's point, our second campaign, okay, is a TV product, which is like 1/4 of the cost. It's $99 versus a $399 product. Within 72 hours, we got 2,000 backers, but that's only over $200,000. Well, the pond already had $900,000. So your expectation for success has to be right. Are you looking at the backers, the number of people that's supporting you, or you are looking at the dollars? So sometimes you just have to really understand what you're getting into and what your expectation is, and both are very successful.
Yeah, well, I've seen consistently that the high-priced products, those are the ones that raise a lot of money, right? Because you don't need as many backers. It's that simple. It's hard to reach a lot of backers. So, and you did a much lower-priced product for your second product.
Yeah, and we are about 721,000.
Yeah, so which is a big number.
Yeah, we're very fortunate. We have over 5,000 backers.
Over 5,000 backers. That's fantastic.
Thank you.
So do you want to talk, Brian, about your experience?
Yeah, I got some words to say. Actually, Helen is right. First of all, the backers. Secondly, the money we crowdfunding is very important. But Helen talking about the products. But for Evo, because Evo is quite a new startup, so we are much focused on the branding. So besides the money and the backers, I do think because our products is quite new, never have been in the world. So I need to let our users know that, and they want to buy that. Actually, we did that, and our users get a lot of good feedback and give us a lot of suggestions. Besides this, a lot of media they report us, and some famous media they just invite us to go to Los Angeles. In the studio for the interview, and they was broadcast in the Bloomberg and Fox News. So I think besides the money, the backer, the marketing and the promotion also very important.
Fully agree.
Yeah, getting your name out there is a huge part of crowdfunding.
Yeah.
Right? Because nobody knows you. You're a startup.
Yeah.
So that's.
Thank you. Indiegogo.
Now I want to hear from you.
Yeah.
You did both JD, right?
Yeah,
China.
actually.
We're talking about international crowdfunding here.
Yeah.
And you did Indiegogo.
Yeah.
So what were the differences? What were the key differences?
I think that's quite different.
Yeah.
Because in China, the crowdfunding looks most like learning something from the Indiegogo and the Kickstarter actually. And then the platform is tend to sell the products. That means just we're talking about maybe the money you crowdfunding is the most important thing, not the branding, not the backers. I think that's the most quite difference with JD and
The money is the most important.
yeah, both. Yeah, and also the Taobao is another very big site for the crowdfunding. You should know that, right? Both.
Is the money important because that's what people look at, that's what people care about, or is it important because it's important to your business?
I mean, for the platform, they must focus on the money you can crowdfunding.
Okay.
Not.
They don't care about the backers or anything.
But I care.
Yeah, you care. Okay. Okay, but JD doesn't care. Yeah. They only care about the
Yeah, I can't say that, but that's quite different with Indiegogo. Yeah, I think so.
Okay, where Indiegogo looks at everything.
Indiegogo, first of all, I do have I appreciate for that. In the first 3 days, we reached the target.
Yeah.
But then, the Indiegogo sent the newsletter to all the bankers. Then I found I go to the casino,
Indiegogo newsletter.
Wow.
I got a lot of bankers, yeah.
So Indiegogo really helped you. Now, what is the price point of your product?
The bottom should be the $99 US.
$99.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, okay.
So similar to what you did.
Well,
Well, you did a $200, right?
so we did early bird.
Yeah.
So we actually have some angel investors. So we're carry on from your previous panel, it's at least you were saying underfunding, right? So we had a long planning session, and about 2 days before we kick off, we were going out of the gate at 149.
Yes.
And then that's like 50% off.
Yeah, so half price.
Which is great. And our investor basically said, well, Helen, I think you should go all out. You need to do a $99, right?
Okay, right, 99.
And I listened. And the interesting part was that 72 hours in, we got 2,000 backers, which is phenomenal.
Yeah, that is phenomenal.
The
70.
perception of the product is really about the community support and the proof of the concept, I would say.
So Brian said the mailing, the Indiegogo mailer really helped. What really drove sales for you?
We actually had 3 factors. Number one is we had a previous campaign, so we had about 3,000 fund backers, which we really had to take care of.
Yes.
Because there is a risk if you had a previous campaign, if you didn't take care of them, nobody else would help you.
Right.
The second part is during the preparation, we actually generated a mailing list of about 10,000 people.
So you had 10, prior to launching, you had 10,000 people on there.
Yeah, we did the lead generation.
Yeah. Which
Lots of
is
hard
key,
work.
right?
I think earlier your panel said about the banding factor. Call your friends and family and see
Yeah.
whether they support you. We actually could see what's word of mouth, who did the most referral. And honestly, I wasn't the top. I thought I would be the one who did most referral. Actually, Catherine was sitting right there. She did more referral than I did.
Okay.
And then that is very important for you in terms of momentum out of the gate. You have to do the hard work.
Yes.
You can't just rely on Indiegogo. And third, but not last, obviously, the community on Indiegogo, and they're featuring more. But you have to generate traffic. There's go-go factor. You have to create that momentum for you to be featured. You
Right.
have to earn it. You don't,
Right, they're not going to feature you if nothing's happening.
Exactly. That's a
Got to
practice.
see it trending up.
Always gets harder when more people are doing it.
So Luke, you've seen a lot of these campaigns. Do you have tips, like inside knowledge that you can share with us?
Yeah, the biggest thing is to launch, like with all startups all the time. And one of the only downsides for the entrepreneurs I work with that I've seen from crowdfunding campaigns is it's way too easy for them to consider it a binary event when you talk to any successful startup, in reality is a long, hard slog with a bunch of launches, with a bunch of incremental improvements. So it's way too easy for startups to get obsessed with setting a record in a category and wait longer than they should to launch a campaign. So we're pushing them hard to launch smaller things earlier, whether
So
that's...
they're afraid it won't be a big success, and that will reflect on the success of their startup, right?
And
You're saying don't worry about that. It's just like putting out a minimum viable product versus waiting till it's perfected.
Exactly. So what we're getting them to do is make 5 and let their friends play with them. Then based on that feedback, make 25, then make 100, and around when you've made 100 and your friends are trying to buy them off of you, according to Eric Pebble and the other smart alumni we have, that's around when you should start thinking about doing a larger run and maybe launching a crowdfunding campaign.
Okay, so once you've made 100 of the product and all your friends are lining up,
People are trying to buy a few at
then you say go on Indiegogo or
Then
Kickstarter
it's
and buy
time,
it.
and frankly, I don't care if they set a record or not. I want things simple for investors. My argument is that yes, there are savvy investors that you can find who are right for your company, but I want you to appeal to everyone. You're one of 100+ companies on stage for a minute and a half. I want them to take away. Smart guys were around something. Oh wow, they pre-sold over $1 million of product. I want that to be the headline they remember for every one of my consumer-facing hardware companies.
Yeah.
And frankly, if they remember that, they'll have their choice of investors.
So $1 million is a high bar.
Depends. You have companies that are blowing that out of the water.
Oh yeah, I know, but it's for most companies it's a high bar.
For most YC companies, it's reasonable. Very lucky with the company.
Yeah.
What's the name of the shower?
Yeah, so we had a company making a $400 shower head last batch, and they did $3.5 million in pre-orders, where you get your shower head a year after you order it. $400 shower head, by the way.
So it must be really hard for me to spend $400.
There is no technology inside it.
Oh, none!
That you did Google, right?
Is it drought and the Tim Cook factor.
Right,
Like-
it's beautiful, first and foremost, and it also uses a third as much water
Okay.
as a low flow shower.
That's-
So that brings up another important point, that if you're consumer facing, you need to be building a world-class brand and community, or you are literally a commodity product. Lily, which I mentioned earlier, I saw the knockoff of Lily at CES, which is shipping 3 months before Lily actually will. So I hope they've got some great software and a great community that they're building, because like it's the exact same industrial design.
Right, and that's the problem with waiting. Right?
Exactly.
Word gets out, you get a
Right.
TechCrunch article, and then everybody knows.
Launch.
Then people are manufacturing it in Shenzhen, and it'll get on the market. So,
I'm from Shenzhen.
okay, there you go.
Exactly.
So let's talk now. So with these crowdfunding sites, and Amanda, I want you to comment on this, and you guys. So I hear consistently it's a lot of work. You can't just put up your product and hope it will happen. Once in a while it does, just pop. But more often than not, you have to lay the groundwork. I've also talked to startups, and I want to get your take on this, as well as your guys. So a lot of startups now, I mean, crowdfunding is a platform, it's also a system, and they will try to game the system. So there are entrepreneurs out there who will take investor money and actually buy a bunch of their own products to push their numbers up, right? So that because honestly, they want to raise more money, and they don't want their company, they don't want to look like a failure, right? On Indiegogo or Kickstarter or any of these other sites, looking like a failure is a kiss of death for them.
Absolutely.
So how do you feel about that? Of course you're going to say you don't like it. Now, do you do anything to stop it?
Good question. So first, I want to say that there's actually a word for that in China, right? What is the word for that? Where you pad your own campaign. It starts with an X.
Chinese.
I forget what it is.
You mean for the Indiegogo?
No, there's an industry word for how you
Make it look
pad.
like they're doing better than you are.
Yeah, actually, we will send some, just like the family, friends, we must. And if we go to the very key number, very slowly, maybe. But very, very few, very less.
Okay. Well, so I mean, in essence, we don't encourage it, but there are two ways to think. Like, there is a good or potentially good way that you could do that, which is to say, if you're planning on going into retail distribution, you could always get some of like the bigger distributors to buy from your campaign, and that's
Yeah.
actually the only thing that we support.
Yes.
So other than that, you're really just setting yourself up for failure, because if your goal for doing that is that you don't want to look bad to the public, it's public how many units you sold and or how many backers you have, and that doesn't add backers. So if you want to sit there all day and add $5 contributions to your campaign
Right.
to get to $1 million, I mean, be Indiegogo's guest, but like at the end of the day, that's actually not helping you learn anything about your product, and it might get you one good TechCrunch article or one good something else, but that's not going to have a lasting impact on your business. The other thing to take into account is people think that having a big campaign will get them good follow-on investment.
Yes.
The reality is you shouldn't be taking money, at least in my opinion, this isn't an official Indiegogo opinion, you shouldn't be taking money from investors that can be that easily duped, right? To say we raised $2 million to lie to your investors, and then in turn for the investors to not ask you at least one or two hard questions that easily help them to recognize
Right,
that
right.
1.9 of that million was from you. It's just, right, that's just not, we're not talking about like sound businesses, in my opinion. So we definitely discourage that. What we do encourage though is for people to take that money instead. Let's say they have $100,000 to spend on their campaign.
Right.
We encourage them to find a good PR partner or a good digital marketing
Yeah.
person. The way that we do that is we look at the core team that is running a campaign, and we say, okay, it's a team of 20 or it's a team of 100. Those two sizes are going to have very different capabilities and will likely need to hire very different resources, right? So we might recommend that a team of 100 uses their own in-house marketing and doesn't bother with a digital marketer, but works with a crowdfunding agency or a PR agency. I guess the long and short is there are different ways to allocate dollars to achieve the same goal and to get much better results and impact from your campaign.
Yes.
And so from a platform standpoint, we do not have, on Kickstarter, you can take away your contribution at any time during your campaign until the campaign
Right.
is funded. On Indiegogo, requesting a refund is much more difficult, and you could never pad your own campaign and then just slowly take out money.
Right, right.
It is what some some people do on Kickstarter.
Yep.
So on Indiegogo, it's much harder to get away with that, but any campaigner that we're working with, I mean, we strongly discourage that because it's not helping the entrepreneur.
Yeah, great advice. Now, what do you think about entrepreneurs that actually take that 100K or whatever they have and do a marketing campaign where they drive traffic to their...
Love that.
You love that. Okay.
Digital marketing is the #1 tool that is underutilized right now. And I think you, Helen, you guys have done an incredible job there. Both before the campaign, you should have a pre-launch page where you're collecting email addresses just like you guys did. And then you have your audience to reach out to on day one. And then you use that traffic that comes to your site to do retargeting, to do, paid advertising. That's really the way, like, running crowdfunding campaign is just putting your go-to-market in a little incubator, and all the pieces that are normally in a go-to-market are there. It's just there in a 30 to 60-day time frame, and you're able to really quickly catalyze and capitalize on that momentum.
Another thing I've heard that really works for all of you out there thinking of doing crowdfunding is that, like, if you get press on it, let's say TechCrunch writes a thing on you, don't just actually market the TechCrunch article, because if you drive traffic to that, they read that, then they're even more likely to buy your product. Plus, it trends on TechCrunch and they feature it for longer.
That's a great piece of advice. I mean, you can come through. We can be consultants.
Yeah, we can work together. No, I just listen to smart people.
Perfect. That is definitely a tip, because good PR and good coverage of your campaign is not. It depends. Like, TechCrunch is a targeted, but a lot of people say, I want to be on the front of the Wall Street Journal. It's like, well, the average Wall Street Journal reader might not want your, drone.
Right.
So actually, that's going to increase the level of trust, though, when the person who does want a drone comes to your campaign and they see the Wall Street Journal wrote about you. Absolutely, level of credibility.
Right.
So you want to think smartly about how you're.
Where the buyers are.
Yeah, absolutely.
Know where the buyers are.
Absolutely.
Great. So let's talk a little now about international, right? The name of the panel. So you're expanding internationally. YC, I want to hear what you guys do, and you're both international companies. Originally you're US now, but you were originated in Singapore, right? And China.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that on an international scale. Helen, why don't you start?
I think it goes both ways.
So are you going to do an international? Brian did JD.
Already did.
Are you going to do it
In
China?
I'm kind of having second thought after you guys talking about.
Oh, you weren't going to do it.
Expectations.
So why weren't you?
Well, lots of people ask me whether I've done the JD.
Yeah.
How about?
Yeah.
And I have been. I'm a person of lots of analysis, and I really need to know what I'm getting into before I do anything.
You're not just going to dive in.
I would dive into my C right now because they always help people to be successful. I think that I have been doing international business all my life, 20 years. I always represented American companies to go the other way. So right now, like this venue is really about the Chinese company coming here and the American companies go to China. And I know that Indiegogo is expanding very successfully. And I know that Luke was in Shanghai on panels. I mean, he's a superstar in China, just so you know.
Okay.
So I think definitely we would look into some kind of crowdfunding or marketing in China. But my sense of that is that we need to be very close to the delivery. It's not an early stage crowdfunding.
So you're afraid of people copying you? Is that copying your ideas in China?
I think the intellectual property protection is far better today than previously. I'll tell you a quick story that came from our lead pad is super successful, and the founder or the not reaching out to international audience, we already did. On that platform.
So China would be a next logical step for you. Would you go to Europe? Any of the sites?
We have lots of European supporters in terms of backers. Actually, there's a person who won a 55-inch TV who's in UK, right? So I think we're already known as a touch dad in UK. It's amazing because of crowdfunding. Our brand is far more outreaching than we are.
Right, it's instantly international.
Five-man team. So,
Great. So Brian, what about you?
Yeah. Actually, just like Steve you said, my company located in Shenzhen.
Right.
Nowadays, Shenzhen is the world's smart device center. Even YC, they send a lot of startups go to Shenzhen. And I do think Shenzhen is an innovative and creative city. And first of all, my product is new. Secondly, actually, the USA is my largest market in the world, not China.
Okay, not China.
Yeah,
Okay.
but as a local company, so even when I founded the company, I regard our company or branding as an international company and an international branding. Nowadays, we founded the US company in San Francisco, and we founded the New Zealand and Australia company in Auckland, and we founded our branch in Germany. Nowadays, only from last year. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but because we are new, so we go to the China market first. So we go to the JD. And
Then how long between China and the US did you launch? How long between JD
actually
and
it should
Indigo?
be 4 or 5 months.
4 or 5 months.
Yeah, yeah. Why? Because we collect some backers, then some of the backers, their family or their friend
Yes.
become our backers in Indiegogo. That's just like you did, but not in the same platform. Yeah.
Yes.
Because I don't have any backers anymore when I go to the Indiegogo. Yeah. So I think the JD is quite different with Indiegogo is. Actually, JD learning something from the OCS platform. They try to improve. And JD is the largest crowdfunding platform, about 70% of the crowdfunding in China.
Yes.
And then Taobao found, no, I need to go. So Taobao in.
Yeah.
They are big competitor.
Okay, they're the big company.
Yeah, yeah. And but JD just offer you a website, and then you should do all things by yourselves. You should negotiate with your dealers, with your.
So they don't really help you at all. Because they have 70% of the market, so they,
Yeah.
you do it all.
Yeah. You need to do it by yourselves. Yeah, that's quite different.
Quite different. So Luke, international. Are you helping YC companies do international crowdfunding?
Yeah, we went on the intake side a lot more international. We've had several great companies, strikingly is probably the most famous, doing software that started in China. We have not had a hardware company do YC that was founded in China. I think that is a huge miss on our part. I want to see many companies doing that. We've had several from India. For me, if you look at China and India, you're almost half of the world's population, and it's a rounding error to say that it's all of the world's manufacturing talent and skill base is there.
Yeah.
So it's a huge miss for us not to be funding more hardware from China.
Yeah, but are you taking some of your US companies and doing crowdfunding campaigns in overseas?
I don't think anyone has yet. They're approaching it cautiously, not from any worry about being copied, but from a matter of focus. Like our first one, I think Blue Smart, our smart luggage that we did on Indiegogo, maybe the first who starts selling in China, but it's really a matter of focus. Like even with Pebble having sold like over 1 million
Right.
units now, it's, if you're properly addressing a new market, you have to make sure.
It requires a lot of work and attention, and
Yeah.
if you take your eye off the ball, you lose the US market.
Right. So they're close,
Yeah.
and I think they will, especially as they get more mature. But certainly not like for launch or, unless it's, eventually we'll see this. We'll see products that make no sense in the US and are just laser targeted at giant populations.
Yeah. And we'll
in
see,
China.
and I think we're going to just see more crowdfunding sites going international, like Indiegogo, right? So you put it up in one place, it's like the App Store, and it's global if you check a box.
Yeah, we definitely get that. We have sales, almost all of our companies that launch campaigns have sales just
All over the world.
everywhere in the world, yeah.
So let's talk about this international expansion for Indiegogo and what it means.
Sure. For Indiegogo, so first for our campaigners, I think there's two different ways that we think about our campaigners utilizing Indiegogo. The first is market entry, and the second is to test a market. Well, I guess I got those backwards. The first is to test a market. So what I mean by that is a lot of people launch on Indiegogo, they're US based, and they get a surprising amount of, let's say 24% of their traffic or their contributions come from Germany. well, who knew that was, a market that they should be building for, and there's different ways in the hardware space that you would build your product and potential features, right, to build for that market.
Yeah.
And so that can be a kind of a surprise, I would say, from doing crowdfunding in terms of it can guide your international direction. And then, of course, like I see crowdfunding as an instrumental part of any hardware product's go-to-market strategy if it's consumer-facing. And so as you enter any new market, I think you should look to localize and launch through a crowdfunding campaign. But for Indiegogo, certainly from the time that we were founded through now, we've always been an open platform, which is different to a lot of our US competitors, particularly Kickstarter. Meaning that anybody can launch a crowdfunding campaign as long as it's legal, we'll accept it anywhere in the world. And that's actually really unique, and that's helped us to like naturally see where the demand is and then to build based on that. So today we have resources in the UK, Canada, Israel, and Australia. And we have a consultant in China, and then Ben, who many of you guys know, and will be definitely focused on expanding our China presence in 2016. So for us, being an open platform has really allowed Indiegogo to kind of naturally just go where the demand is. And
Yes.
It's really important to us, as these campaigners have attested, it's really important for Indiegogo to be very supportive, and we think, that kind of goes hand in hand with marketing.
So are you building tools like in the App Store where you can check, I want this country, not this country?
That's a great question. We haven't done that to date. I mean, we've done currency localization, language localization.
Yes.
And what we found about those things, it's actually really interesting. I mean, this is kind of, we're dog fooding, right? We're learning as we're testing our product is very few people actually run campaigns in other currencies or in other languages because they really want access to Western markets. And that means the US and Canada and then parts of Europe. And so for us, we haven't done a lot more on product localization, mainly because we're still trying to figure out how we serve all the people that want access to Western market.
Right. Okay, and those others, they weren't heavily used, the local.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have exact stats, but it's like, we spent all this time, like, we're in Australian dollars, Canadian dollars, euros, and pounds. And it actually turns out that most people just prefer to run their campaign in US dollars because they automatically think that that's the best way to get US contributors.
Yeah, I think, the answer ultimately would be to look at where the IP address is and convert the currency, right?
Yeah.
Automatically. And
Right.
So people don't.
But even that, people then are like, they're a little bit confused.
Yeah.
There's a lot of confusion because trust is such a big piece of a crowdfunding campaign.
Yep.
Certainly as you look cross borders, there's a responsibility on Indiegogo to make it as clear as possible for potential backers, right? Like, where is this campaign coming from? What are the mechanisms which that Indiegogo uses to gauge trust, and how can the crowd help to raise the level of trust?
And I read, and I want to confirm it with you, that Indiegogo is going to soon do equity.
That's a great question. I actually led our efforts for the last 6 months.
Yeah.
And I think it's something that Indiegogo is still exploring. I wouldn't anticipate anything in the first half of this year.
They said with the Jobs Act, it was.
Yes, so the Jobs Act is amazing.
Yeah.
And I think, but actually what the Jobs Act means.
So people could, so you, well, go ahead.
No, so I mean, there are a few different equity crowdfunding options for people. Title II and Title III. And basically, they are very different in terms of the amount of money you can raise and the type of backers that you would normally get. Title III is actually the most similar to what we think of as perks-based crowdfunding, where any startup can raise up to $1 million a year without having to go through too many hoops with the SEC.
Yeah.
And that's actually the thing that I anticipate Indiegogo will implement first, but that's actually not going to be legal until May of this year. So as of now, Indiegogo does not have any committed time frame for it, but they're definitely interested in it.
Right. Interesting, because you could see it. I love this product. I can buy the product. Oh, and I can buy some equity.
Absolutely. And,
an upsell.
Yes. And over the last 6 months, as I've talked to hundreds of campaigners to further explore what this would look like for Indiegogo, that's the number one thing people ask is, are we going to be able to combine a perks and an equity-based campaign?
Yes.
And that's definitely possible. in such a new space, it's like, yeah, that's possible. We're not sure what the MVP will look like, right? But that is definitely far and away, I think, the huge advantage that Indiegogo has in entering the space.
Yes.
Is figuring out a way to combine those two funding models.
Yeah, and then you have to find out if it really works. If we're the same
Absolutely.
type of people who want to buy equity, who want to buy these gadgets or other products.
Absolutely.
So that's going to be, so on that topic, what do you guys think, and any of you can chime in, on the future of crowdfunding, like in the US and worldwide? Where do you think it's going?
I mean, I think it's the Wild West with all of this. Like, to be clear, this idea of Silicon Valley is what, 40 to 50 years old, depending how you define it. It was hardware originally, only like actual silicon. Then all of a sudden, software for 20 to 30 years. Now hardware is somewhat cool again. Like, there aren't any rules to this, especially with crowdfunding, especially introducing equity. I think it's just a massively empowering time for entrepreneurs, especially in emerging markets. Like, some of these cap tables I see from Eastern Europe, let alone more developing countries, they've given up like half their company for like 20 grand.
Yeah.
We're not going to see that kind of stuff fly anymore. We're not going to see entrepreneurs get taken advantage of as much. They can find 100 people that want their product, pre-sell it to them, and get a couple of them to throw a couple $1,000s their way for ramen for a few months in exchange for a bit of equity. It just feels like a great time for entrepreneurs worldwide.
It is. It's much better than it ever was. Do you have any comments?
I call it the moment of truth. Because I've been doing marketing from consumer packaged goods to technology, toys, and smart and I've seen lots of dollars wasted because you thought that you had this great idea and then you build it and you invested millions and then it failed. So I really agree with Bill's approach. I think if you could build the 5 and then the 20, the 100 and your product is remarkably good and a sticky use case, and I showed you some data earlier. We had early users and we did a survey, and once again, it's all about data. Overwhelmingly, when 80% of the people saying, I would recommend this product, then you know that you're on something. And even it is a little bit hard for you to raise either VC funding, and I think that, having a crowdfunding to reach out to our video phenomenally. I mean, we had like 700,000 views.
Yeah, I love your video. I mean, having a great video is like the number one thing, right? That's how you capture people's imagination.
Absolutely.
That's how you make the product real before it's real.
I think crowdfunding has a lot in there that's the moment of truth that I think people need to face it sooner or later, and I think any entrepreneur would have the opportunity to get on that platform and then get that moment of truth and move from there. I think it's the greatest thing in the world. I think lots of people should do crowdfunding. My personal opinion.
Yeah. And I like Luke's comment, really get it out there early, because I see too many people with, they're afraid that their product isn't going to go, and they keep delaying the launch, only inevitably to find out it doesn't work. It's better to know several months earlier so you can change what you're doing. Yeah.
And for startup, I do think crowdfunding is the best way to reach end users.
Yes,
and also
engage them,
get
right?
a lot of suggestion and feedback from end
So
users.
did you do surveys? Get a lot of feedback out of these crowdfunding?
Yeah, actually, that's something what I do now. Because nowadays some products maybe get approved, so you need to get service
Right.
and feedback with your bankers. That's
How did it change your product? What was the one thing you learned from?
you may change the product.
Yeah, from crowdfunding, what feedback did you get that was really valuable?
I think as any user, you will tell you what I need indeed. So you need to maybe improve your app, you improve your products, and for smart device, I do think if you check your record, I do think the smart device is the most popular and most money funding in the crowdfunding.
Is that true on Indiegogo?
I do think. I don't know.
You think?
Yeah.
Amanda could tell us.
What's the, wait, what's the,
Are smart devices the most popular category?
That's a great question. We just think about hardware design and technology, so I'm not sure if
Our
if
hardware
that's-
and our gadgets.
Oh, yeah,
Number one.
easily gadgets are, I think they're over 60%.
Over 60%.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that's on an open platform that includes generosity.com, which is
Yeah, right.
our
Donations.
donation space.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, once, I'll add a story to that if that's okay. So the Misfit Shine actually launched on Indiegogo in 2013, I believe. I don't know if any of you guys use that. It's a fitness tracker.
Yeah, I know.
They launched with one product, which was one silver like medallion that Sunny Vu, their CEO, said, "We want people to just be able to put it wherever, and it should be something hidden. Nobody wants to wear a Fitbit." That was his idea, right? Like thinking, why would you want to wear a bracelet? You have to wear it every day. Well, within 2 days of his campaign, he got people asking, "Does this come in a necklace? Does it come in a bracelet? Can I clip it here?" Et cetera, et cetera. And can you make it in black? It was only in silver. So he went back to his manufacturers, he negotiated, and actually the black was cheaper to make than the silver, and it was very cheap to add accessories. And by then, so he introduced them into his campaign. I think he had a higher price point, a $50 higher price point for the black, even though it was cheaper to make, because he knew people were asking for it. By the end of his campaign, the black medallion and the bracelet were the #1 and #2 selling purse on his entire platform. And we had changed the way that Misfit.
And he didn't even launch with those, right?
Exactly.
That shows you an excellent Indiegogo campaign
Right,
or crowdfunding
and they ended up
right?
getting acquired by Fossil Watch. So clearly, that watch was like a key component of what ended up being their end game or their.
So it's really the dialogue between the
Absolutely.
startup and the user
Absolutely.
that can be the most valuable thing to come out of the campaign.
Yeah.
And I saw your surveys you showed me this morning.
Yes,
Yeah.
a couple of things. I think in the campaign you have stretch goals because it will reach our goal in the first day, and the backers actually made the suggestions like, why don't you add this and that, increase your RAM and video conferencing, and so we actually. During the campaign in real time, we are updating the features and adding stretch goals.
Ah, okay, right.
The real journey in a very short period of time. and that's, I think that's great.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes it takes a company years to figure out what's the right thing to do.
Yeah, and I think that's how you motivate your backers, is by actually listening to them and changing your campaign as it goes. Get them involved. Okay, we have a couple more minutes. I want to open it up to any questions. Do we have any questions in the audience? Yes?
Hi, Amanda. I want to ask you a question. So for the Indiegogo campaign, a lot of startups are trying to go on Indiegogo, and then as I know that to the preparation work, you have to have a great video pitch and you have a great text pitch, and also you need to maybe if you have enough money, you can hire a campaign management agency or PR agency. So a lot of good campaigns are actually, I think, they actually spend a lot of money on the preparation work, right? So what about for those small startups? They don't have enough money to afford all of those. So yeah, so how does those turn out?
Sure. So an important thing is to separate money that you need to invest before and then money that you'll need to reinvest in your campaign. So I'd say if you have very minimal budget, that's fine. And you can absolutely, there are a million success stories. Flowhive being an amazing campaign from 2015 where it was two guys, they didn't know how well it would do. It's raised over 14 million on Indiegogo. They invested very little up front. That's not always the case. But what I would say is video is very important. And as a startup, when you're going to market anyway, you'll want a compelling video that really tells your product. After a video though, I would say if you have no more money for marketing or PR, that's fine. Build an audience on your own and make sure that you have an email list and a network to reach out to on the first day. And then price margin into your product so that as you get backers from your campaign, you can put a little bit of that into marketing during your campaign.
And there aren't any rules to this, to be clear. Eric did $10.4 million worth of Pebbles with a video he made himself, hiring 0 outside consultants. He hired someone to do PR halfway through the campaign, just so he could not be on the phone 24/7. But again, there are no rules to anything about startups, particularly hardware, particularly crowdfunding, particularly if you add in crowdfunded equity. It's just a giant
Definitely.
series of experiments with not that much data yet, frankly.
Yeah, I would just add to that one thing, which is I couldn't agree with you more. And seeing how this industry's evolved since I joined Indiegogo in 2012, I mean, there are a million amazing use cases of people that had no budget. But the one thing,
Since then,
oh,
what's the volume last year compared to 2012?
that's a great question. I know from 2014 to 2015, we saw, I think a 2,000% increase. It's insane. But what